the first wrap-up of this year. I thought I would just say, I don't know, almost like a little reintroduction. So I've been doing these monthly wrap-ups for over a year now, which seems just insane. But yeah, like if you are new here, my name is Hannah. I do these every month. I have tons of book content on my channel, and I read literally pretty much every genre of book. I don't discriminate. But I probably veer more towards like fantasy, mystery, thriller, romance. But yeah, this year is a year that I'm trying to branch out more. Although I will warn you, this was a bit of a basic bitch month. But at the same time, who the fuck cares what you read? Read what you enjoy. We ain't judging anyone. If you want to read, you know, it doesn't matter. We are just here for a good time. Which is, I should also say that if you're here for, you know, a critical, deep dive into the books that I read, you're not gonna get it. I'm not a super critical thinker, and while I do enjoy books sometimes that do make you think more and really invoke emotion and thought and are amazingly written, I do love books like that. I also love a good fluffy romance or a not well written romantasy that is just fun, you know. So yeah. Last thing before I get into it, I'm sorry I'm talking so much. So normally for these wrap-ups, I will take notes, like as I'm reading my books, with thoughts that I have, so I don't forget to like tell you guys things that, you know, I thought were funny or stood out to me or whatnot. But this month I gave myself a break, take the pressure off, and just strictly enjoy reading the books. So I don't know what I'm going to say in this video. You are just as clueless as I am. So yeah, I may leave out some things. It's just, let's see what happens. So I read 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 books in January, and I am really trying to again take the pressure off this year with trying to read like as many books as I can, because the book community, you know, being on Book Talk and BookTube, there can be like pressure, not even consciously, to you know, read so many books. So I really just want to take my time and enjoy the books that I'm reading this year. So I'm just kind of going in a random order. So we'll start with this book that I read. Also, I'm kind of off to the side so that I can show the book better on this side of the screen. Otherwise, I would be in the center. So this book has been on like I've pulled it off my shelf to be read that certain month for like 3 months now. And I told myself it's happening in January. And it did. So this is The Reappearance of Rachel Price. Written by Holly Jackson. It's a super like squeaky book almost. So if you don't know Holly Jackson, it is the author of the Good Girls Guide to Murder series, which is one of my fave YA series. Especially the last book in that series was insane. I still think about it. So this is one of, I want to say 2, but I'm just going to say one of her standalone books that came crazy story about what happened to her. That's not a spoiler, that's like what it says that in the synopsis, and it's literally the reappearance of Rachel Price. So I'm allowed to say that. But Belle is kind of like sketched out about the whole thing. She doesn't really believe her mom, so the whole thing is her trying to get to the bottom of the truth, and it's about like secrets in the family, and just trying to get to the bottom of everything. So, loved the premise. It really did feel like I was back in the world of A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, which is written by the same author, same genre, but that was kind of comforting because I love that series so much. So yeah, I loved the story. Like, the truth about what happened, I didn't see that coming. Not that I ever really do. I don't like to try and predict what happens because I feel like it ruins the book for me. But, like, if I do get it. The only major negative I would say is that it is so long. So it was quite a slow build up. So the first little bit maybe went a little slow. So it's not like a super fast page turner. But other than that, I really enjoyed the story. I thought it wrapped up well. Obviously it's a thriller, so there's different twists. I really liked the story and how it ended. So yeah, I think 4-star. I think I said that. Okay. Next. So I started in November on my Throne of Glass journey. Would you guys helped me decide where to start? And in January, I was able to get through the next two books in this series. I would have read more, but I'll explain why I didn't with some later books. So I read technically their books 2 and 3, but because I read Assassin's Blade first, this is 3 and 4. So technically, I'm halfway through the series now. Although the last 4 books are like this size. So yeah, I read Crown of Midnight by Sarah J. Maas, as well as Heir of Fire. Because these are in the middle of the series, I won't tell you exactly what they're about, but the series as a whole is a YA series following a young assassin who's been through so much in her life. She's like the top assassin in her assassin's guild, and the first book, like, something tragic happens, and then there's like trials, and she ends up at the kingdom's castle. And so much, like, you can, as the books have gone on, I start to see more and more about where the story will be going. And also, I always forget to mention this, the current king outlawed magic in their kingdom 10 years prior. And so Selena, the main character assassin, there are things she's discovering about that, and some darker things about the king and her past, and just there's a lot going on now. But this book, Crown of Midnight, was 5 stars. Like, it was so action-packed. It was emotional. It was just so freaking good. Because I've read 4 of them now, and I read these earlier in the month, I'm kind of of struggling to separate them in my mind, but I just remember having the best time. In this, there is a little bit more, I would say this was the most romance heavy of the books so far, but remember it is YA. Yeah, oh, my nose is being tickled. Also, we are in my new office now, if you could tell the different room, but yeah, it's not even close to being complete. I'm going to be sitting more over there when it is done, but yeah, it's just know it's not complete yet, but I'm very excited to be in this room. Okay, and then Heir of Fire. This book was a big turning point. I feel like in the series we were introduced to so many new characters in this. We really see like where I think the rest of the series is going to be taking us, at least for now, you know, things could change. But we're also have this whole entirely new point of view and new characters, and oh yeah, something which I had actually guessed at that we find out for sure in Crown of Midnight about Selena. Really, something she needs to like come to terms with. She does in this book, and yeah, this book was just a great setup. The first like half, I would say, was a little bit slow, but the last bit I definitely flew through in SJM fashion. But yeah, a lot more POVs, a lot more going on. Just yeah, a great setup to the rest of the series, and I can't wait. Rating for this one, I forget what I rated it on Goodreads. I'm someone who will go back and change a rating if, like, I'll raise a rating if that book has really been sitting with me and I've been thinking about it a lot, but I'll also lower a rating if it's not sitting with me well, or I find later, like, oh, I haven't thought about that at all, it was just kind of whatever. 4.25. Yeah, between there. I don't know. Okay. Next. Itchy ear. Next. I have no idea how long this is going to be, by the way. I'm just jabbering. Easy. Oh, God. We have The Wedding Witch by Aaron Sterling. Now this is the third book in the, I don't know if the series has a name, but the first one, I should have brought them up, is the X-Hex, and the second is the Kiss Curse, both of which I read in, I think, 2023. They are spicy, not like too much spice. Christmas book. They go to like this Yule party thing. So it takes place around Christmas. So I put it down to read in November, December, but then didn't. So I thought this month I'm just gonna read it. Whatever. It's really short. It's under 300 pages. And this one takes place, or it follows the third Penhallow brothers. The first two books are, there's three brothers, and the first two books are the first two brothers, and then this is the third brother's book. And he's a witch and has been working with a human who trades in like magical objects and stuff. And they finally meet in person, and he's like super attracted to her. I think the POV switched between the two of them, if I remember correctly. But then a mishap happens, and they end up being sent back in time to 1957 to this like Yule celebration. So it's just about them trying to make it back to their time and kind of their story, them getting closer. And it was very cute. It was pretty well written, I thought. Like it was a little more heartfelt, and I wouldn't say emotional, but yeah, heartfelt than I remember the first two being. But it did fall like a little bit flat for me. It was my least favorite of the three, because it didn't take place in the town, and the other characters weren't in it as much. Like the time travel aspect of it was really fun, but I don't know, it just wasn't my fave. Why did I read this? Like, it was fun while I read it, but now thinking back, it's just like meh. It's maybe 2.75 of 3. Yeah. I'm so indecisive. Okay. Next. This book was one of my October book of the month picks. So I had to go on a little road trip for work this month, and I knew how long the trip was. So I thought, I'm gonna pick an audiobook that will, like slot perfectly into my drive time. So I was looking through the books that I already owned physically, because another big goal for this year is to read through my physical TBR, whether that be on audio or physical. So they had this book, Dearest, on Spotify. So that's part of my Spotify subscription already. Can't really see what I'm tracing here. Hopefully that was okay. So yeah, this is Dearest by Jackie Walters. So yes, I listened to this on my trip, and it follows this. It's in the point of view of a new mother named Flora, and she has a newborn baby. Her husband is works in the military, so he's deployed, and he's to be returning in like a few weeks. So this is their first baby, and she's like really struggling. She's on her own, like new motherhood. She's like has been getting no sleep. It's just not having a great time, and she's estranged from her mother. But she kind of gets to the point where she's thinking about things, like things turning on that she had turned off, things just appearing places. But when her mother gets there, things get really weird. It's very like fever dream-esque. So the first half is not even very long, but the first half was very intriguing. Like wondering where this was all gonna go. I'm pretty sure this is categorized as a horror book. There were definitely moments and scenes and things that happened that made me kind of go like, ew, like that's a disturbing thought and gross visual. So that was like kind of fun. But the second half, again, like just fell kind of flat for me. Like it didn't give me what I was looking for and what I wanted from this type of book. Like if it is horror and like the front is so eerie. Oh yeah, she has this imaginary friend that she had when she was a kid who like suddenly reappears and is like helping her. So that's who I think that's supposed to be. But I don't know, it just didn't give me enough of the spook factor. And yeah, the last half I did struggle through a little bit. The last half I was just kind of waiting for it to be over. So I think I rated this one 2.5 or 2.75 stars. Because yeah, it really did have promise. I loved the presents. The first half, nothing wrong with the writing. I like the writing. Yeah. Okay. And now this had to be done. I would not have all the FOMO. See, this is what I mean by I'm definitely and can be a basic bitch, which I will embrace, but also will branch out and read critical and thought-provoking stuff. As most of half of the book community did in January, I read Onyx Storm. So, firstly, I did a reread of Fourth Wing. Fourth Wing, which I think I had originally read at the end of 2023. I also brought up my paperback of Fourth Wing for some reason. It's so pretty. I wish I could get these versions of these books immediately because I so prefer paperback. And also did a reread of Onyx Storm. Nope. Iron Flame. So I actually did my rereads on audio. I listened to the what are they called? Like the dramatic readings of them, like not the normal audiobooks. Oh, graphic audios, that's what they're called. Yep. And they were really cool. I don't mind a reread for a graphic audio fantasy. I try to read only physical because I pay attention better physically reading. There's a dog like squeaking outside. The fuck? Dude, shut up. Anyways, so yeah, I quite enjoyed them. One thing I will say about the graphic audios, however, is some of the characters, because they're really cool. There's a different voice actor for every single character. just like stone walking sounds. So it really is like you're listening to a movie, which is really fun. The only thing is like some of the voice actors, I did get used to them a little bit, but Zayden especially, at first I was like, no, that is not Zayden's voice. It just like was not right. It wasn't deep enough. I got used to him a little bit, but still he wasn't the ideal Zayden voice for me. Darren was pretty good, and Darna, so cute. Who else didn't I like? Rihanna, and hers was, I didn't like hers. It made me like not take her seriously. Also, I know I'm not pronouncing like dragon names correctly. There are correct ways to pronounce them. I just can never remember them. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. Had a good time. Oh yeah, and what's his face? Liam. No, what's his face? We love Liam. But his voice actor was like a 40-year-old man. I was like, this is, no. I didn't like his voice. But yeah, I really enjoyed my rereads. If you don't know much about Fourth Wing, it is spicy adult romantasy series that follows our main character, Violet, as she has entered into the Riders Quadrant of this war college. There's stuff brewing in the kingdoms, and the Riders Quadrant is the only quadrant that if you survive to a certain point, you have the chance to be bonded with a dragon who also talk. And I never know how to explain this series, at least the first one. But yeah, the first book is definitely like half romance, half political, and more fantasy. But as the books go on, I feel like they've turned more into higher fantasy. So that brings us into Onyx Storm. By the way, I do love this series. Do I think it is the most well-written or greatest series ever? No, I don't. But I do love it. I think it is such a fun time. Like, I just feel at home when I'm like in this world. There's just something about it that is very addicting. So, Onyx Storm. This book just released on January 21st. So I was really trying to get through my rereads so I could start this as soon as possible, because I don't post that much on Book Talk, but I love scrolling and it makes me feel connected to the book community. And I knew that everyone was going to be finishing this ASAP, and I didn't want any spoilers, and I wanted to be a part of all of like the theory videos and stuff. So before I get to a couple critiques that I do have of this book, honestly, I think it was my favorite one of the series. I was just starting to mention, but this book definitely is more epic high fantasy than Fourth Wing was. I think they have progressively become higher fantasy, so I can understand people who don't read higher fantasy, how that can be a little bit tougher and harder to follow. But I personally love that. I prefer fantasy first and romance second. So I loved what we got in this. I thought this book was so funny. Like, legitimately, I laughed out loud so many times in this. Zayden, yes, book. Like, I think I'm in love with Riddick, with Garrick, with even Bodhi. Like, they're just so good. This book brought so many side characters up to the forefront, and I felt like in this book everyone was more on an even playing field. Like, everyone is almost like a main character now after this book, which I really, really, really love. I love that. As I was saying at the beginning, like, oh my god, I could literally go on all day about this book, but I won't. But a lot of what I saw from this book is like people first starting out were so confused and had no idea what was going on. So a couple things to that. One, I was not confused about what was happening whatsoever. It literally starts exactly where Iron Flame left off, so I don't understand that. If you didn't do a reread, I could see that, but it was a complete continuation, so that was great. I love when it just picks up. In terms of characters, one negative I have is that Rebecca Yarros did throw around a lot of names, especially at the start of this, that we had or hadn't been introduced to. So on that front, I can see being confused. I was a little bit confused throughout this with how many names were thrown around. But some of the new names at the start, like they were introducing some royalty from other places around the kingdom, like that was just introducing new characters. Like, I didn't see an issue with that. But yeah, it wasn't the biggest issue I have with this book was that kind of the pacing and like so much happening. Like, I feel like it maybe could have been written in a smoother and better way that was a little bit easier to follow. But with that said, I enjoyed my time so much. I loved the romance. I liked Violet and Zayden's relationship a lot better in this book than in Iron Flame. There was a lot of back and forth in Iron Flame. But this one, yeah. I really liked it. The ending, holy shit. Like, if we have to wait like 2 or more years for the next book. No. The ending was crazy. Crazy. But so good. One other thing I will say is that I feel like this book, as much as I loved it, there wasn't as much plot progression as you probably would have expected to see in a book this size. But honestly, I was okay with that. I just loved being in this world. This book brought us so much more world building and, like I said before, character building, and I feel so much closer to a lot of the characters now, which doesn't bode well for their health in future books. But I feel like this book was more for those aspects, and she can write 10 more books like this that is just spending time with all of them, and I will eat them up. Last thing about the world building, I loved there was so much travel and learning about the history and other kingdoms and continents that reside in this universe, and that was so much fun. But so there's this really nice map of their continent in this book, but half of the book they're traveling on other continents down here. So I feel like it was such a missed opportunity to not put a new map at the back here, because it's just the same map repeated. I feel probably should have made a new map for the new continent because there were so many new places. That was really hard to picture exactly the layout and where everything was, because there was a lot of talk about going from here to here, and it took this time to get from there to there and A to B, like a lot of that. So it would have been really nice to be able to flip to a visual about that. So yeah, anyways, overall, I honestly think this was my favorite one. I think I rated it 4.5 stars. I'm so excited to see where the story goes. Again, is it the most well-written book? No, you can definitely tell that it was her first attempt at like actual higher fantasy, but that didn't take away from the story and my enjoyment. And oh my god, and Darna, she's so sassy, so fun, like so good. Okay, I'm gonna stop talking. I can't see how long this is. Probably too long. I forgot to mention the book that I'm currently reading. That is this non-fiction book, Sapiens, by Yuval Noah Harari. I've been wanting to read this book for legitimately like 10 years since it came out. This is my first book of his that I am reading, and it is a brief history of humankind. And yeah, I'm like 30 pages in, so not very far, but I'm very much enjoying it so far. I was worried about how well my little pea brain was gonna understand this, but again, I'm not very far in, but it's the way he writes it is so easy to follow and understand,